There's a deep, quiet struggle within most of us, an ongoing battle that manifests as confusion, dissatisfaction, or even despair. This struggle doesn't come from the world around you, but from within, from the conflict between what you want, what you think you should want, and who you think you should be. But why? Why do we wrestle so fiercely with ourselves? Here are 9 reasons you might be struggling, trapped in a loop of inner tension that holds you back from peace and growth. There is a constant tug of war within many of us, a battle that rages quietly beneath the surface. This battle isn't against the outside world, but against ourselves. It's the clash between who we truly are and who we believe we must become. On one side, there's the voice of our authentic self, the part of us that knows what we need, what we want, and what makes us truly happy. On the other side, there is the influence of external expectations, what others believe is best for us, or what we think we are supposed to be in order to gain acceptance, respect, or success. This internal conflict begins early in life, often imprinted upon us by our families, our schools, or the very society we live in. We are taught to be something, to fit into a mold, to act in ways that are deemed acceptable or praiseworthy. We are told what is right, what is wrong, and what we should desire. Over time, we internalize these teachings and begin to form an identity based not on our own desires, but on the roles others have assigned to us. It's easy to forget that we had dreams of our own before these expectations were planted in our minds. But as life unfolds, we often start to feel an unsettling sense of misalignment. The pressure to conform begins to feel suffocating, and the pull of our true desires grows stronger. We want to follow our passions, pursue meaningful work, or simply live in a way that feels authentic to us. Yet the fear of disappointing those around us, whether it's our parents, our friends, or even society itself, holds us back. We might feel as though we are betraying some part of ourselves if we step away from the path laid out for us. This is where the internal conflict thrives. The more we try to appease the world, the further we drift from who we truly are. We suppress our own needs, desires, and instincts, believing that we must choose between living authentically and meeting the expectations of others. We begin to wonder if we can ever truly reconcile these two forces. The result is a constant tugging at the heart, a split between the life we want to live and the life we think we should live. The conflict deepens when we realize that no matter how hard we try to meet the world's standards, we are often left feeling unfulfilled, empty, and disconnected. We may achieve success in the eyes of others, be it through career, social status, or external validation, but there remains a gnawing feeling that something essential is missing. This is because the version of success we've been striving for was never our own. It was imposed from the outside. We've been chasing someone else's dream while ignoring the one that has always been quietly whispering to us from within. The longer we live in this internal conflict, the more it erodes our sense of peace and self-worth. We may feel torn between two opposing forces, one that seeks freedom and authenticity, and the other that yearns for approval and security. The struggle intensifies when we try to ignore these feelings, telling ourselves that we should be content with the life we have. But the truth is that no matter how much we convince ourselves to settle, the internal conflict never truly goes away. It continues to fester, undermining our sense of happiness and well-being. What makes this internal battle so challenging is the lack of clarity. It's not always easy to distinguish between what is our true desire and what we've been taught to want. The mind becomes clouded with doubt and confusion, caught between the need to conform and the desire to break free. This internal turmoil is exhausting, pulling us in different directions, leaving us with a sense of unease that lingers, even in the quietest moments. There is a profound and often overlooked struggle that many face, the struggle of not truly knowing who they are. This lack of self-awareness manifests in countless ways, but at its core, it stems from a disconnect between what we feel inside and what we show to the world. We may go through life acting in ways that seem right, following a path that others have mapped out, or pursuing goals that we have been conditioned to believe will bring us fulfillment. Yet in the quiet moments of reflection, we feel lost, confused, or unsure of what truly resonates with our soul. At the heart of this lack of self-awareness is the idea that we are often too busy living for others, or trying to fit into the roles prescribed by society, to stop and listen to ourselves. We become so absorbed in doing, achieving, and performing that we forget to pause and ask the most fundamental question: what do I really want? We chase after external markers of success, whether it's approval, material wealth, or recognition, without ever truly considering if these things align with who we are, or if they will bring us lasting peace and fulfillment. This creates an inner void, a feeling that something essential is missing, even though we might be achieving what we thought we wanted. When we lack self-awareness, we often find ourselves in situations that drain us, leaving us exhausted and disillusioned. We may choose careers, relationships, or lifestyles based on the expectations of others, or simply because we were told it was what we should want. We end up living lives that are out of sync with our deeper needs and desires, which only breeds frustration. We wonder why we feel unfulfilled or disconnected, but we fail to recognize that the root cause is not the world around us, it is our own inability to connect with our authentic selves. This absence of self-awareness also fuels indecision and confusion. We may feel overwhelmed by the number of options in life, unsure of which path to take. Because we lack clarity about what truly matters to us, every decision becomes a guessing game, and every choice is clouded by doubt. It is as if we are wandering through life without a map, hoping to stumble upon the right direction, but always feeling lost. We are reactive rather than proactive, responding to external pressures and circumstances without ever truly understanding what we need or want at our core. Without self-awareness, we also struggle with understanding our emotions. We may find ourselves caught in cycles of anger, sadness, or anxiety, but without knowing why. Our emotions can seem like unpredictable waves, constantly crashing over us, without a clear reason or purpose. This lack of emotional clarity makes it difficult to process our feelings in a healthy way. Instead of addressing the root causes, we often suppress or ignore them, believing that if we just push forward, the feelings will fade away. But they don't. They linger, manifesting as tension, discomfort, or even physical ailments. In relationships, a lack of self-awareness can also create distance and misunderstanding. When we don't know who we are or what we need, it's impossible to communicate those needs clearly to others. We may seek validation or approval from people, but we're unsure of what would actually fulfill us. As a result, we may form connections based on insecurity or a need for external reinforcement rather than genuine alignment. We may even end up in relationships that leave us feeling unfulfilled, because they were never based on a true understanding of ourselves. The real challenge is not that we don't have the answers, it's that we haven't taken the time to ask the right questions. Self-awareness is not something that is handed to us, it's something we must cultivate. And it begins with taking the time to pause, reflect, and listen to what is happening inside. The struggle comes when we continue to live in a state of distraction, never taking the time to stop and truly examine our inner world. Only by embracing the discomfort of introspection can we begin to bridge the gap between the life we are living and the life that is waiting for us to fully inhabit. There is a quiet yet powerful force that many people live with, an invisible barrier that keeps them from experiencing true connection and intimacy. This force is the fear of vulnerability. It's a fear that makes us guard our true selves, hiding our weaknesses, our insecurities, and our emotions behind a facade of strength and composure. In many ways, this fear is a survival instinct, rooted in the belief that showing our true selves is dangerous, that exposing our vulnerability leaves us open to judgment, rejection, or even ridicule. Yet, ironically, it is in these very moments of vulnerability where we find our greatest strength and deepest connections. The fear of vulnerability starts with the belief that we must always be strong, always be composed, always be in control. We are taught to present an image of perfection, to show the world only what is polished, what is confident, what is expected. In this environment, admitting to weakness feels like failure, and revealing our true emotions feels like a risk. We live in a world where the loudest, most assertive voices are often the ones that are celebrated, while the quieter, more introspective voices are dismissed or overlooked. We fear that by revealing ourselves, by showing our authentic, unguarded emotions, we will be deemed weak, unworthy, or incapable. This fear of vulnerability manifests in many ways. We hold back from expressing our feelings, even to those we love. We avoid confronting our deepest fears or desires, keeping them buried beneath layers of defense mechanisms. We may even engage in self-sabotaging behaviors, pushing people away before they have the chance to reject us, all because we fear what might happen if we allow ourselves to truly be seen. We hold on to the idea that if we appear perfect or untouchable, we will avoid pain and rejection. But in reality, this only deepens our isolation. The irony is that in avoiding vulnerability, we often distance ourselves from the very thing that makes us human: our emotions, our imperfections, and our need for connection. When we refuse to show vulnerability, we rob ourselves of the ability to build authentic, meaningful relationships. True connection is not built on perfection, but on shared experiences, mutual understanding, and the willingness to be open with one another. When we hide behind walls of invulnerability, we deprive ourselves of the depth of love and connection that can only arise from being open and honest. The fear of vulnerability also creates a barrier to self-acceptance. When we are unwilling to embrace our own vulnerabilities, we are essentially rejecting parts of ourselves. We may try to suppress our feelings, telling ourselves that they are not valid or that they make us less worthy. But this suppression only leads to emotional stagnation. It builds walls within ourselves that prevent growth and healing. We may find ourselves caught in cycles of self-doubt and insecurity, constantly seeking approval from others, but never feeling truly seen or understood. What we fail to realize is that vulnerability is not a sign of weakness, but of courage. It takes immense strength to face our fears, to admit our flaws, to show our true selves without fear of judgment. It is through vulnerability that we become truly authentic, free to express our desires, our needs, and our fears without the need to hide behind facades. When we allow ourselves to be vulnerable, we invite others into our truth, and in doing so, we create the space for genuine connection, empathy, and compassion. The fear of vulnerability is a deeply ingrained part of the human experience, but it is also something that can be overcome. By embracing our vulnerability, by accepting our imperfections, we open the door to a life of deeper connection and personal growth. In the moments when we feel most afraid to show our true selves, we are presented with an opportunity to transform not just our relationships with others, but our relationship with ourselves. It is through vulnerability that we find our deepest strength and our truest sense of belonging. Many of us find ourselves burdened by the past, trapped in memories of what once was, and haunted by regrets, mistakes, and missed opportunities. We hold on tightly to these moments, unwilling to let them go, often without realizing how much they prevent us from moving forward. The past, while a part of who we are, can easily become a weight that drags us down, clouding our present and shaping our future in ways that are neither helpful nor necessary. Clinging to the past often comes from a fear of losing our identity. Our memories, whether they are filled with joy or sorrow, help us make sense of who we are. They form the foundation of our self-concept and the narrative we tell ourselves about our lives. But when we become overly attached to these memories, we begin to define ourselves by what happened rather than by who we are now or who we could be. The person we were becomes the only person we believe we can be, even if that identity no longer serves us. We may find ourselves revisiting past mistakes, playing them over and over in our minds, questioning what we could have done differently. Perhaps we feel guilty for actions we regret, or we linger on words we can never take back. This constant reliving of the past keeps us stuck in a cycle of self-blame and guilt, making it almost impossible to embrace the possibility of change or growth. The fear of repeating the same mistakes often paralyzes us, preventing us from taking risks or trying new things, as we are conditioned to believe that our past defines our future. There is also a sense of longing for the past. We often romanticize former times, wishing we could go back to a simpler, happier moment in our lives. This longing for what was can prevent us from appreciating what we have now. We may constantly compare our current life with some idealized version of the past, measuring our present against something that is no longer attainable. This comparison creates dissatisfaction, as we find ourselves falling short of the perfection we believe we once had. In relationships, clinging to the past can be especially destructive. We may hold on to the way things used to be with someone, whether it's a friend, a partner, or a family member, and wish for the return of that version of the relationship. But people change, circumstances change, and clinging to an outdated version of a relationship only leads to disappointment. We may overlook the beauty and potential of the present moment, holding on to an idealized past that no longer exists. Similarly, unresolved trauma or emotional wounds from the past can cast a long shadow over our lives. When we refuse to heal from painful experiences, we carry them with us, even if we try to forget them. These unresolved feelings shape the way we see the world and interact with others, creating patterns of behavior that are reactive rather than proactive. We may unintentionally sabotage ourselves by recreating past experiences, believing that the world is unsafe or untrustworthy because of what has happened before. What we fail to realize is that holding on to the past prevents us from fully living in the present. The past is gone, it cannot be changed or relived. While it's important to learn from our experiences, it's equally important not to let them dictate how we live today. When we hold on too tightly to the past, we miss out on the opportunities and experiences that are available to us right now. We prevent ourselves from creating new memories, from embracing new relationships, from growing into the person we are meant to be. Letting go of the past doesn't mean forgetting it. It means accepting that it is over and choosing to live with the wisdom and lessons it has provided without allowing it to define us. It is about finding peace with what has been, so that we can open ourselves to the infinite possibilities of what can be. Only by releasing our grip on the past can we fully experience the richness of the present moment and step into a future that is not constrained by what was, but shaped by what we choose to create. Unrealistic expectations are a silent force that shapes much of the frustration and dissatisfaction we experience in life. These expectations often begin innocently, as hopes or dreams of what we desire or believe we deserve. However, over time they can become distorted, setting standards that are impossible to meet and creating a constant sense of inadequacy. We place these expectations on ourselves, on others, and on life itself, only to find that the reality we encounter falls short, leaving us feeling disappointed and defeated. At the core of unrealistic expectations is the belief that things should be perfect, that life should unfold in a certain way. We expect success to come effortlessly, relationships to be flawless, and our personal journeys to follow a neat, predictable path. When things don't go according to plan, we feel a deep sense of failure, as though we've missed something or done something wrong. The truth is, life is rarely linear. It's full of detours, surprises, and obstacles that challenge our plans. But when we hold on to unrealistic expectations, we fail to embrace the natural ebb and flow of life and become trapped in a cycle of disappointment. We often place unrealistic expectations on ourselves, believing that we should be constantly progressing, constantly achieving, and always in control. We compare ourselves to others, believing that their success is a measure of our own inadequacy. We might think that if we work hard enough, we will achieve everything we've ever dreamed of, without acknowledging the many factors that influence our lives' timing, circumstances, and even luck. When we set our goals without taking these complexities into account, we set ourselves up for failure. Instead of embracing the journey, we focus only on the destination, which makes it difficult to appreciate the small victories along the way. Similarly, unrealistic expectations are often projected onto others. We expect people to behave a certain way, to meet our needs, or to love us unconditionally. We imagine that if they truly cared, they would know exactly what we want without us having to express it. When these expectations are not met, we feel hurt, resentful, or misunderstood. But people are not mind readers, and everyone has their own set of desires, limitations, and challenges. When we demand perfection from others, we not only set them up for failure, but also strain the relationship, as we are unable to accept their humanity and flaws. Our expectations of life itself can also be unrealistic. We may believe that happiness, success, or fulfillment should come easily, that life should be without hardship, and that every step we take should be one of progress. But life is messy. It's filled with uncertainty and discomfort, and it is in the struggle that we often find growth. When we expect everything to go according to plan, we are inevitably disappointed by the unpredictability that comes with living. Life cannot be controlled, and the more we try to control it, the more we fight against the natural flow of existence. The danger of holding unrealistic expectations is that it leads to a perpetual cycle of dissatisfaction. We set goals that are out of reach, place demands on others that are unfair, and build a narrative of life that is simply not realistic. This constant disconnect between expectation and reality creates stress, frustration, and a sense of disillusionment. We may feel like we are failing or that life is failing us, when in reality it is our expectations that are out of alignment with the truth. To break free from the grip of unrealistic expectations, we must learn to embrace reality as it is. This means accepting that perfection is an illusion and that life is full of imperfections, challenges, and setbacks. We must let go of the need to control every aspect of our lives and instead focus on what we can influence. By adjusting our expectations to be more in tune with the complexities of life, we can find peace in the present moment and appreciate the beauty of the journey, regardless of where it takes us. A lack of acceptance often manifests as an internal struggle, a resistance to what is, coupled with a longing for things to be different. It is the tendency to fight against the reality of the present moment, whether it's rejecting our circumstances, our flaws, or even other people. We become entangled in the belief that things should be another way, that life should be different, that we should be different, or that others should be different. This constant dissatisfaction breeds frustration, self-criticism, and a deep sense of disconnection, preventing us from finding peace with who we are and where we are. At the heart of this lack of acceptance is a refusal to embrace reality as it is. We often have preconceived notions of how life should unfold, how our relationships should look, how our careers should progress, or how we should feel about ourselves. When life does not match these expectations, we resist, wishing for things to be otherwise. This resistance creates a tension within us, as we are constantly trying to change or control what we cannot. We may reject our current circumstances, believing that they are a mistake or an unfair turn of events, rather than accepting them as part of our journey. This inability to accept reality keeps us stuck in a cycle of dissatisfaction and struggle. One of the most difficult aspects of a lack of acceptance is the way it impacts our relationship with ourselves. We tend to focus on what we don't like about ourselves, our flaws, mistakes, and perceived shortcomings, while overlooking the inherent worth that we possess as human beings. We may be consumed by self-criticism, constantly striving for perfection, or comparing ourselves to an ideal version of who we think we should be. This relentless pursuit of an unattainable standard often leads to feelings of inadequacy and frustration. We fail to accept that being human means being imperfect, and that our imperfections are not flaws, but simply part of our unique expression in the world. When we cannot accept ourselves, we also struggle to accept others. We may have unrealistic expectations of those around us, believing that they should meet our needs, think as we think, or behave in ways that we find acceptable. This lack of acceptance leads to conflict, misunderstanding, and a breakdown in relationships. We become frustrated with others for not fitting into our preconceived ideas of who they should be, failing to see them for who they truly are. This creates a barrier to genuine connection, as we are unable to embrace the differences that make each person unique. A lack of acceptance also limits our ability to experience joy and peace in the present. When we are focused on what is wrong or what needs to be fixed, we miss out on the beauty of the moment. We fail to appreciate the richness of our current experience as we are always looking ahead to the future or yearning for the past. This constant longing for something different keeps us disconnected from the present moment, preventing us from truly living. The inability to accept life as it is often stems from fear. We fear that by accepting things as they are, we are resigning ourselves to a life of mediocrity, or that we are giving up on our dreams and desires. However, true acceptance is not about settling or giving up. It is about acknowledging what is without resistance and then making conscious choices based on that reality. Acceptance allows us to move forward with clarity and grace rather than being weighed down by the burden of resistance. When we accept what is, we free ourselves from the need to constantly struggle against life's natural flow, and we open the door to greater peace and fulfillment. Overthinking and doubt are two mental forces that can easily paralyze us, preventing us from making decisions and taking action. They thrive on our insecurities and our fear of making mistakes, creating a cycle of constant questioning that leaves us feeling stuck and unsure. At first, these mental patterns may seem like an attempt at caution or careful consideration, but in reality, they often lead us further away from clarity and peace, driving us deeper into confusion and indecision. Overthinking begins when we get caught in a loop of unnecessary analysis. A thought enters our mind, and instead of letting it pass, we hold on to it, dissecting it from every angle. We examine every possible outcome, every potential risk, and every hidden consequence. While it's important to consider the impact of our choices, overthinking turns this natural process into something toxic. The more we analyze, the more options we see, and the more overwhelmed we become. This constant mental chatter prevents us from making a clear decision, leaving us feeling trapped in a cycle of uncertainty. The fear of making the wrong choice is what fuels overthinking. We believe that every decision we make has profound consequences, and that one mistake could derail our entire lives. This belief keeps us in a state of paralysis as we try to anticipate every possible outcome before taking action. The problem is that no amount of overthinking can predict the future or guarantee success. Life is inherently uncertain, and by trying to control it, we only create more anxiety. We are constantly looking for certainty, but in the process we lose the ability to act at all. Doubt is often the companion of overthinking. It emerges when we question our abilities, our choices, and even our worth. Doubt feeds on our fear of failure and the belief that we are not capable of handling whatever life throws at us. It causes us to second-guess ourselves, undermining our confidence and leading us to believe that we are unprepared, inadequate, or unworthy. When doubt takes hold, it can be difficult to see beyond our fears, clouding our judgment and making it nearly impossible to trust ourselves. The most dangerous aspect of doubt is that it is often based on distorted thinking. We tend to magnify the risks and minimize our strengths, convincing ourselves that the worst-case scenario is the most likely outcome. We imagine every possible failure, however unlikely, and convince ourselves that it is inevitable. This kind of thinking keeps us trapped in a cycle of negativity, making it difficult to take risks or pursue new opportunities. Instead of focusing on the possibilities, we become paralyzed by the potential for things to go wrong. Overthinking and doubt often work together to create a toxic mental environment. Overthinking amplifies our doubts, and doubt reinforces our overthinking. Each thought feeds into the other, creating a feedback loop that makes it difficult to break free. We become overwhelmed by the endless questions and the fear that we are not equipped to handle what lies ahead. This mental turmoil drains our energy, leaving us exhausted and unsure of what to do next. In this state, we lose sight of the present moment. We become so consumed with the what-ifs that we forget to focus on the here and now. We miss the opportunity to take action, to learn from our mistakes, and to grow through experience. Life is never as predictable as we would like it to be. And the more we try to control every detail, the more we deny ourselves the chance to live fully. The key to overcoming overthinking and doubt is to accept that uncertainty is a natural part of life. No matter how much we plan or analyze, we can never control every outcome. Instead of trying to eliminate doubt or overthinking entirely, we can learn to manage them. By acknowledging our fears, recognizing the limits of our control, and taking action despite our doubts, we can free ourselves from the grip of indecision and begin to trust ourselves more fully. Only then can we step out of the cycle of overthinking and embrace the flow of life with clarity and confidence. We often find ourselves neglecting our own needs, prioritizing the demands of others or the expectations placed upon us by society. In doing so, we forget that our well-being is just as important as the well-being of those around us. Ignoring our own needs, whether they are physical, emotional, or mental, can lead to a buildup of resentment, burnout, and an overwhelming sense of disconnection from ourselves. It's easy to fall into the habit of putting others first or focusing on external achievements. But when we disregard our own needs, we deny ourselves the fundamental care and attention that are necessary for a fulfilling and balanced life. The tendency to ignore our needs often stems from a belief that we are not worthy of care or that others' needs should come first. We may feel that if we take time for ourselves, we are being selfish or neglectful. This belief can be especially strong in environments where self-sacrifice is valued, or where we are constantly reminded of the importance of fulfilling our responsibilities to others. But what we fail to realize is that without attending to our own needs, we become depleted, unable to give to others in a healthy or sustainable way. We cannot pour from an empty cup. Ignoring our physical needs is one of the most common ways we neglect ourselves. We push ourselves to work longer hours, skip meals, or sacrifice sleep in the name of productivity or obligation. We convince ourselves that we can handle the stress, that we are strong enough to keep going, but eventually the body begins to break down. Fatigue sets in, our immune systems weaken, and we begin to feel physically drained, yet we continue to push ourselves to the limit. We forget that our bodies are not machines. They require rest, nourishment, and movement to function optimally. By ignoring these needs, we compromise not only our health, but also our ability to function in the world. Emotional needs are often the most easily overlooked. We may suppress our feelings, avoid difficult emotions, or convince ourselves that we are fine, even when we are not. This is especially true when we feel that others depend on us, or when we fear being vulnerable. We may ignore feelings of sadness, frustration, or anxiety, convincing ourselves that we must always appear strong and in control. But emotional suppression does not make emotions disappear, it only buries them, often leading to emotional outbursts, anxiety, or depression later on. By ignoring our emotional needs, we deny ourselves the opportunity to process and heal, which keeps us stuck in a cycle of unresolved feelings. Mental needs are just as vital as physical and emotional needs, yet they are often overlooked. Our minds need stimulation, rest, and space to process information. Constantly working, multitasking, or being exposed to external pressures without giving the mind time to recharge can lead to cognitive overload. We may feel mentally exhausted, yet continue to push ourselves to think, analyze, and perform without giving our minds the time to rest. Mental well-being requires balanced time for reflection, time for creativity, and time to simply be without the constant demands of the world. Ignoring our mental needs leads to burnout, anxiety, and a sense of disconnection from ourselves. The habit of ignoring our needs often arises from a lack of self-awareness. We become so consumed with external expectations or the demands of others that we lose sight of what we truly require to thrive. It can be easy to forget that we are human beings with our own desires, limitations, and vulnerabilities. We may have learned to value productivity, achievement, and service to others over our own well-being, leading us to believe that our needs are secondary or even unimportant. But the truth is, when we ignore our needs, we deny ourselves the opportunity to live fully, to experience joy, and to show up as our best selves in the world. The key to breaking the cycle of neglect is to develop self-awareness and to honor our needs without guilt or shame. This means taking time to listen to our bodies, minds, and emotions, acknowledging when we are tired, overwhelmed, or in need of connection. It means recognizing that self-care is not selfish but essential for our well-being. By learning to prioritize ourselves without sacrificing our responsibilities to others, we can create a more balanced and sustainable life, one where our needs are met, and we are able to give from a place of abundance rather than depletion. Fear of change is a powerful force that keeps many of us rooted in the familiar, even when that familiarity brings discomfort, dissatisfaction, or stagnation. The thought of altering our routines, stepping into the unknown, or leaving behind what we have always known can trigger deep anxiety and resistance. Change forces us to confront uncertainty, and uncertainty breeds fear. The idea of losing control, facing failure, or being faced with challenges that we are unsure how to handle can prevent us from embracing transformation, even when it might lead to greater fulfillment. At its core, the fear of change arises from a deep-seated discomfort with the unknown. Humans are creatures of habit, and our brains are wired to seek predictability and security. The routines we establish provide us with a sense of control and stability, even if those routines are not ideal. When faced with change, we are thrust into unfamiliar territory, and our minds often focus on the potential risks and pitfalls rather than the opportunities that might arise. The fear of what could go wrong often overshadows the excitement of what could go right. We may begin to imagine worst-case scenarios, catastrophizing the situation and convincing ourselves that the new path will inevitably lead to failure. Another aspect of the fear of change is the belief that it is too late to make a change. We may have spent years building a particular identity, lifestyle, or career path, and the thought of altering any of these aspects can feel overwhelming. We fear that changing direction means admitting that we have wasted time or made mistakes, which can be a blow to our sense of self-worth. This fear of regret, of not having made different choices earlier, can paralyze us and prevent us from taking the necessary steps toward transformation. It is easy to become trapped in a cycle of if-only thinking, where we dwell on past decisions and convince ourselves that the future is already predetermined by what we have done in the past. The fear of change is also closely linked to the fear of failure. When we step into the unknown, we are essentially taking a risk. We risk not achieving the outcomes we desire, not meeting our expectations, or facing challenges that we are unprepared to handle. The fear of failure can hold us back from taking that first step, as we imagine all the ways we might fall short. We may even stay in situations that drain us simply because we are afraid of what might happen if we try something different and fail. The idea of failure becomes a roadblock to progress, and we convince ourselves that it is safer to stay where we are, even if it no longer serves us. Similarly, the fear of judgment can play a significant role in resisting change. When we decide to pursue a new path, we open ourselves up to the opinions and judgments of others. We fear that others will not understand our choices, criticize us, or think that we are foolish for stepping away from what is familiar. The desire for external validation often causes us to second-guess our decisions, and the potential for judgment can make us hesitant to make any move at all. The fear of not being accepted or understood can keep us locked in our comfort zones, unable to move forward. Underlying all of these fears is a deeper fear of losing our sense of identity. Change can feel like a threat to who we are, to what we know ourselves to be. We may feel that altering our circumstances means letting go of a part of ourselves, and this can be a difficult process. Our identities are often tied to our roles, relationships, and routines, and the thought of breaking free from these familiar structures can be terrifying. We fear that without the familiar we will be lost or unrecognizable, unsure of who we are or who we are becoming. But in truth, change is an inevitable and necessary part of life. It is through change that we grow, learn, and evolve. While fear is natural, it is also important to recognize that the discomfort we feel in the face of change is not a sign that we should avoid it, but rather an indication that we are on the brink of something new. The unknown is often where the most profound transformation occurs, And while the path may not always be smooth, it is in embracing change that we can discover our true potential. Overcoming the fear of change requires courage, trust in ourselves, and a willingness to let go of the familiar in order to create space for the possibilities that lie ahead. In the end, the journey of navigating internal struggles, whether it be the fear of change, doubt, lack of self-awareness, or ignoring our own needs, is one of self-discovery and growth. These challenges are not signs of weakness, but reflections of the complexities of being human. While it's easy to remain trapped in cycles of overthinking, fear, and resistance, the real strength lies in acknowledging these struggles and taking the necessary steps to confront them. Only through acceptance of our imperfections and embracing discomfort can we create meaningful change and progress. Every moment of fear, doubt, or resistance is an opportunity to understand ourselves more deeply, and in doing so we unlock the potential to live more authentically and with greater purpose. Change, while daunting, is not our enemy, it is the gateway to our transformation. By facing these internal battles, we pave the way for a more empowered, balanced, and fulfilled life.